No introduction today, guys. We can honestly just end the video by looking at this one picture. 8 goals conceded after the 90-minute mark in the Premier League so far this season. And those late goals alone have cost Liverpool 11 full points when the referee was just seconds away from blowing the final whistle. When you see numbers like that, you can forget about tactics and coaching for a moment. This alone shows you why Arne is walking a very fine line right now. Now, if you can see goals like that against teams such as Chelsea, City, or even Fulham and Palace, you can maybe live with it. Those are tough games and difficult opponents. But doing the same thing against Wolves, and now against a Tottenham side that has literally been the worst team in the Premier League based on form, and doing it at Anfield as well, that is simply unacceptable. And you know what makes it even worse? The fact that as the game went on, you could feel it coming. There was this strange feeling growing during the match that we might not actually win against a side that looked dreadful coming into this game. So why did it feel like that? Why did the game slowly start to slip away from us? Well, hit that like and subscribe button and let us explain exactly what happened. Now here's the thing, we actually started the game quite well. Within the first 10 minutes, we already had a dangerous moment that came from a transition. In this situation, you can see Gravenberch winning the second ball in midfield, reacting quickly and immediately slipping Wirtz through with a perfectly weighted pass between the lines. It was a really sharp moment for him. From there, our number 7 probably could have done a bit better. He might have waited a second longer and allowed the attack to develop, so he had more options around him. Instead, he decided to play Gakpo through straight away, which put the Dutchman in on a very tight angle. Even then, Gakpo still could have done much better with the finish. Rather than testing the keeper, he ended up skying the ball high over the bar. But here is the strange part of the whole situation. Gravenberch was able to pull off that quick forward pass instantly and with real quality, yet in the opening minutes of the game, he was struggling to complete even a simple 5-yard pass. It looks like he's having trouble playing the most basic balls cleanly. Let us show you exactly what we mean by that. Here you can see us work a 3 against 2 situation out wide and eventually manage to play Gravenberch through. As he usually does, well, he receives the ball on his back foot and immediately faces the play so he can carry it forward. That part is good, but now pay attention to how many touches he takes before he finally releases the ball to Szoboszlai. Each extra touch slows the move down a little more, and if you think that already hurt the attack, just look at the pass he ends up playing. Instead of rolling the ball into Szoboszlai's strong foot so he can take it in his stride and drive it forward with momentum, he plays it slightly behind him towards the left side. That small detail slows the move down even more. Szoboszlai now has to adjust his body before he can continue the attack, and that tiny delay is all Spurs need. Their backline shifts across, they close the spaces, and just like the whole attack, it is completely stifled. Moments like this make you wonder why the players can be so inconsistent when it comes to their decision making. We know that squad lacks certain profiles and that some players simply cannot perform certain actions as naturally as others. That part is understandable, but this kind of issue has been present for most of our season so far. The strange thing is that we still do not really see clear signs of improvement in these moments. You would expect the players to get sharper as the season goes on. Now to the difficult part that is not so easy to give a clear answer. We do not know exactly what is happening behind the scenes or what the coaching staff are focusing on during training. A lot of that work happens away from the cameras, but even if we cannot know for sure, we can still try to theorize about what might be going on. Poor decision making can often be linked to fatigue, both mentally and physically. And that is something we can definitely point towards when looking at Slot. Not only is his team selection starting to come back and bite us, with the same players being used again and again, which is exactly what caused problems towards the end of last season, but it's also becoming very clear that some players simply cannot keep up their level once the game moves past the 70th minute mark. You can see it in the way the intensity drops. The runs become slower, the reactions are late, and the decision starts getting worse. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. That is also the exact moment when we keep conceding goals almost every single game. Those late minutes have become a real problem for us this season. We will come back to this later in the video because it played a big role again at the end of this Spurs match. Now, despite all of that, we did manage to take the lead. It came from a brilliant Szoboszlai strike from a free kick. The shot itself was fantastic, but it also had to be said that the Spurs keeper had absolutely no idea how to deal with it. But from that moment on, our attack started looking very reliant on just one thing: wing, or more accurately, one person. 17-year-old Rio. Here you can see us trying to overload the right side of the pitch, with Wirtz dropping deeper to receive the ball. The idea behind this is quite simple. By bringing more players to that side, Spurs are forced to shift across and follow the movement. Naturally, that pulls several of their players towards the ball and leaves more space on the opposite side. That is exactly what we are trying to create for Rio. Once we switch play, he suddenly has a little bit extra time and space to receive the ball in a better position. From there, he does really well. He manages to dribble past two Spurs players and carries the ball all the way into the final third. The problem is what happens next. When he looks up, there is barely any support around him. No real runs ahead of him, no clear passing options in dangerous areas. Because of that, he is forced to play the ball backwards and the attack loses all of its momentum. Another method we used to isolate Rio came from the movements around him. You could often see Robertson making underlapping runs inside while Wirtz drifted out towards the wing. That created a small overload on Spurs' right back, with both Wirtz and Rio operating in that same area. From there, the goal was quite clear. Work the ball out to Rio and give him a direct 1-against-1 situation against Porro. In this moment, you can see exactly that happen. The ball reaches our winger and he is left facing the defender on his own. And just like he did for most of the game, Rio made life very difficult for Porro. With quick touches and clever control of the ball, he kept shifting it from side to side. What was also impressive was how strong he looked under contact. For a 17-year-old, he used his arms and body really well to hold off the defender and keep control of the ball. Eventually, he created the opening with a smooth roll of the ball under the sole of his foot. He slipped a pass through to Wirtz, making the run inside. It was a really nice piece of skill and awareness. Unfortunately, though, the move did not lead to anything truly dangerous in the end. If we want to summarize the whole game, this was basically the script from start to finish. Isolate Rio, get the ball to him, and hope he can create something for us. That was the main idea of the attack for most of the match. But the question is that really a fair plan? Is it reasonable to put that much responsibility on a teenager who is making his first Premier League start? We really do not think so. And as the game went on, you could clearly see the effect it had on him. In the second half, he started to look exhausted, which is completely understandable considering how much he was asked to do. And once again, exhaustion brings us back to the main point we've been trying to make throughout this video. Because you look at the Spurs goal, you have to ask yourself, what exactly happened with the defending? Both Van Dijk and Robertson were very poor in that moment. Neither of them read the long ball properly, and they both reacted too late to deal with it. Gomez also struggled as he failed to track Richarlison's movement into the dangerous area. But it was not just the defenders. If you look closely at the midfield, you will also notice how slow McAllister, Ryan and Szoboszlai were to react to the situation. None of them managed to close the space or recover quickly enough. And if anything, that probably comes down to how tired they looked at the stage of the game. They had already put in a huge amount of work with the ball and without it. By that point, the legs simply were not as sharp anymore. So in the end, this draw did not come out of nowhere. The warning signs were there throughout the whole game. Slow decision making, tired legs, and an attack that relied almost entirely on a 17-year-old making his first Premier League start. That is not a stable formula if you want to compete at the top level. And the worrying part is that this is not the first time we've seen the same problems this season. Late goals conceded, the same players looking exhausted, and the team slowly losing control of games as they move into the final minutes. At some point, those patterns stop being bad luck and start becoming real issues that need to be fixed. That is why the next game against Galatasaray is massive, not just for the result, but for the mood around the team and the pressure building around Arne Slot. Another poor performance or another late collapse, and we might see the board take some serious decisions because right now, Slot is already walking a very thin line, and if the problems appear again in that match, Galatasaray might just become the final straw.